This is lesson 36, Comparing Fractions, an introduction. Students will look at pictures to compare and order fractions. So first I would like to bring your attention to our equivalent fraction chart. So if you're wondering where to find that on the Google site, if you go under Math, Unit 5, Fractions and Decimals, you will see a picture of it here. And then you can also create these fraction strips using the Fractions for iPad, Web, or Chrome app, which looks something like this. So let's begin. Would you get a bigger piece if you have to share it between 2 people or 3 people? So if you're sharing it between 2 people, you would obviously have 2 pieces, and 3 people, you would have 3 pieces. When there's a question, I want you to pause, think about the question or do the work on a piece of paper, and then when you're ready to come back and check your answer, then you can press play in the video and we will continue. So think about this question here for just a moment. So clearly, as we can see from the paper strips, that you would have bigger pieces if only 2 people are sharing it. Imagine a pizza that's cut up into or shared between 2 people or 3 people. So one piece between 2 people is obviously going to be much larger than one piece between 3 people. So then we can say 1/2 of the chocolate bar is more than 1/3 of the chocolate bar, and we can use the greater than symbol. 1/2 is greater than 1/3. And I'll just write greater than below. You can use little teeth to remind yourself that this hungry math monster wants to eat the bigger piece or the bigger number. Moving along, I want to know which fraction is bigger, 1/2 or 2/3. When I see them like this, it may not be completely clear because we see that the shaded parts are spread out here. So if I have them side by side, like this, it's clear that 2/3 is bigger than 1/2. 2/3 is over here, 1/2 is over here. So 2/3 is clearly bigger. All right, now it's your turn to do a little bit of work here. We have 4 different fractions, 2/3 over here, 1/2, 3/4 or 3/4, and 3/5. Your job is to put them in order from smallest to largest. So pause the video, do that, come back when you're ready. So you can easily do this at home. You can take a ruler or any straight edge, and you can take that ruler and you can slide it along. So 1/2 was the smallest. And then if I keep sliding to the right, the next smallest fraction I see is 3/5. So I'll write it down below. Slide my ruler again, and 2/5 is the next one, or 2/3, I'm sorry, is the next one that comes up. And finally, the largest fraction of the group is 3/4. So here are my fractions down below from smallest to largest. All right, in this next set of questions, you're asked to compare 2 fractions and decide which one is greater. So we're going to use the less than and greater than symbols. So this one here is less than, and this one here is greater than. It's important that while you're working on this, that you're speaking the math as well. So what I mean by that is, even though I might be sitting in my bedroom by myself watching this video and doing my math, and there's nobody there, it'll help my brain to process and understand the math better if I'm speaking it out loud. So I might say, for example, 1 is less than 2. So remember, this is the less than symbol because the monster is going after the bigger number. So pause the video right now, put in the correct symbols for these 4 questions and speak them out loud. If it helps, grab a teddy bear and teach your teddy bear how to compare fractions. All right, so we should have the greater than symbol here. 2/3 is greater than 1/2. 1/2 is less than 3/4. Another strategy that the 5Bs learned, so just in case you don't want to use the equivalent fraction chart, is you can turn each fraction into a percent. So here for question C we have 2/3. Now 2/3 really means 2 divided by 3. It's always the top number, the numerator, divided by the bottom number, the denominator. And then I multiply that answer by 100 to get my percentage. So I can use a calculator for this, and if I punch in 2 divided by 3, and then I multiply by 100 and I round, I get 67% here. So that basically means if you had a test out of 3 questions and you got 2 right, you would have 67%. 3/4, 3 divided by 4 times 100 is 75%. So just another strategy that you can use if you'd like to compare fractions. So I can tell quite easily here that 75% is more, so I would say 2/3 is less than 3/4. And then over here, let's take a look at our fraction app. So here I am comparing 3/4 to 3/5 in my fraction app. So I can see clearly that 3 out of 4 is more than 3 out of 5. 3/4 is going to be greater than 3/5. Okay? So whenever you have numerators that are the same, you look at the denominators. The one with the smaller denominator is going to always be greater than the one with the bigger denominator. Anyway, we have 4 more bonus questions here for you, so go ahead and pause the video and try these ones out. So 1/2 is less than 5/8. 2/3 is greater than 5/8. 3/4 is greater than 5/8. And 3/5 is less than 5/8. So we could see what we had in common here. We're comparing each of these fractions to 5/8. All right, in this part we have number strips with shaded areas, and we would like you to write down the fraction for each one, and then down below you're going to put them in order, but this time you're putting them in order from biggest to smallest, from greatest to least. So pause the video and go ahead and try out writing down these fractions and putting them in order. So over here we have 2/3. So remember the denominator is, I'll just put a D for denominator, how many make up the whole, and the numerator here is how many pieces we actually have, and it's always the number of shaded pieces. So in this next number strip, it's divided into 12 sections, and we have 3 shaded. Over here we have 3/4, and then down here we have 5/6. And if all we were looking at is the fractions, it would be hard to put them in order, but because we have the number strips, we can quite easily tell. This is the number 1 largest fraction, so 5/6. The next smaller one is 3/4. The next one is 2/3. And the smallest of the set is 3/12. And the reason why we put them in order from largest to smallest is because we had the greater than symbols here. So we say 5/6 is greater than 3/4, which is greater than 2/3, which is greater than 3/12. So then we see that 3/5 is equal to 6/10. And those two are greater than the 1/2 and 3/6. If I keep sliding my ruler down, next I will have, next biggest ones will be 2/3 and 4/6. And finally 3/4 and 6/8. Now my pen doesn't want to work. There we go. 3/4 is equal to 6/8. So these should help us answer the questions down here below. So go ahead and pause the video and put in greater than, less than, or equal to for these ones here. So 3/5 is equal to 6/10. 6/10 is greater than 3/6. I know that 3 out of 6 is exactly half, or 50%. And you probably know that 6 out of 10 is 60%, so that's a little bit bigger. So you can go back to that percentage strategy if you would like. For C, I can see that 3/4 is greater than 4/6. And for D, the two are equal. Okay, 4 more for you to try here. So go ahead and try these 4, pause the video, and come back when you're ready. So 1/2 and 3/6 are equal. For F, 1/2 is less than 4/6. For G, they are equal. And for H, 1/2 is less than 6/8. And here's some extensions that you can try. We have 1/3. We can see that the two fractions are equal because the gray parts are the same size. And at the bottom, now this part might be a little bit confusing because in fractions you have learned that we need to have equal parts. And these little quarter pieces here are smaller than the next pieces. So what we would have to do, so we could see that we could divide each one of these pieces into 4. So really I have 4 out of 12. So that's how we play find the missing denominator. So again, we are showing equivalent fractions here. Let's pause the video and see if we could find the missing numerator in these two questions. So that's the 1/4, and we can see that it's equivalent to these little, there's 100 of these little squares here. And this is essentially an array, right? We have 5 rows and 5 columns and 5 rows. So that tells us that we have 25 altogether. If you were to use a calculator to figure out the percentage, you would know that, or figure out that this is 25% and this is 25%. Here we have 2/5 here, and this is tenths. There are 4/10. So both of these are equivalent to 40%, and you could tell that it's a little less than half. I think we'll skip that, and you guys can get to work on your practice book, pages 24 to 25, and we will be posting the answers to go over tomorrow. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact your teacher. Good luck.